And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. I'm Chip Patterson. Get all dressed up because it's awards night, baby. That's right. The Cover 3 September awards will be given out in the process of this show. We will be handing these awards to the individuals who have won them. I don't know. It might just be a tweet. Maybe we will come up with some gift bag that includes some Cover 3 swag, though. So many Cover 3 fans have been buying up the merch. I've heard that the Cover 3 merch at the CBS store is difficult to come by. Tom Fornelli, we are going to be going for team, player, coach, game, and a few off-the-board awards as well. Are you excited for this big awards night in the Cover 3 podcast land?
Oh my God. Just talk about sleepless nights getting ready for our big award show. I do want the listeners to know that Bud and Danny also have nominations, but we threw them out because, like any good award show, it's only an excuse to get people here. So if you're not showing up to the event, you're not going to win anything.
Yeah, so I guess that means that no awards for Florida State.
Nope.
No, I don't have a monologue. Don't worry. Okay, well, if the audience is ready, let's go ahead and kick off the Cover 3 monthly awards for September. All right, let's begin with Team of the Month for September. I've got 4 nominations. I'm going to let you go ahead and start so we can get this discussion started and figure out who ends up taking home the trophy.
Okay, well, my first nomination that I'm going to bring to the table is a team that did not have a whole lot of hype surrounding it coming into the season, but is currently undefeated and has beaten 2 teams that were ranked at the time already, and maybe 2 teams that should still be ranked. I'm taking Arkansas, or nominating Arkansas with my first nomination.
Yes, sir. You got to think that Arkansas is going to be leading the way here for the wins against both Texas and Texas A&M. Against Rice, we saw Rice be frisky for about a half and the Razorbacks pull away. I don't think that there's any better time for us to give all of the flowers to Arkansas than right here at the end of September before the Razorbacks go to play Georgia here on October 2nd. So Arkansas is on my list as well. For the purposes of challenging it or discussion, what about Penn State?
Penn State was also a nominee of mine. They were actually my second nominee. I think it's a similar situation to Arkansas, except we had higher expectations for Penn State coming into the season, but they opened the year with a win over Wisconsin on the road, and then they got that win at home against a ranked Auburn team. And, they've moved up into the top 5, and now they're in, considering the, kind of sluggishness of Ohio State to start the season. Penn State's suddenly gone from, hey, they might have a decent season. They might rebound from a bad year last year to playoff team.
I think that I am entering October considering Penn State as a playoff team, and that also speaks to what we've seen from other teams that we thought were playoff teams. One of my big lessons for all, like, the college football landscape from the month of September is that I need to rethink where I'm setting the bar for a playoff team. And that bar is lower than it was at the start of the season based on Clemson reeling, Oklahoma with its offensive line and its offense still yet to really get going. Ohio State, obviously, with sputtering a little bit. So as the pool becomes larger because the bar is lower, I have no problem calling Penn State a playoff team heading into October.
Yeah, like I don't think Penn State's a playoff team in the last 3 years. If it's playing like it is right now, like I don't think we're looking at it as like, hey, that's a feisty Big Ten team. Maybe they'll provide a challenge for Ohio State. But this year, that's very much a team that is in the running for a playoff spot right now.
Okay, so we both have Penn State and Arkansas on our list of nominees. We'll make our selection here in just a little bit. Why don't you go next with the next nominee for Team of the Month?
All right, well, I'll stick in the Big Ten for this one. Another team that's defying some expectations for it, the Michigan State, 4-0, ranked number 17th in the poll. it opened the season with a win at Northwestern, which, in hindsight hasn't been that impressive since, because Northwestern's been kind of a mess. But they went on the road. They beat Miami by 21. They beat Nebraska this weekend. They don't have like the resume of Arkansas and Penn State to this point, but they've also just been impressive from start to finish. Like, since the season, like there hasn't been a moment where they've looked bad. Like, even when they were kind of still losing in that Miami game or close in that Miami game, you felt like they were the better team throughout the entire 60 minutes and that they were going to win it eventually. And that's exactly what happened. So I think that this is a team that Mel Tucker's squad's off to a really good start. And I think that, honestly, like, you look at the Big Ten East right now, compared to what we thought coming into the season, like when we just thought it was going to be Ohio State and everybody else, this is a really solid division between Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, and then I don't know if you're going to bring them up. I haven't nominated them for Team of the Month, but I think Michigan and Maryland are also off to have fantastic starts.
I am not going to nominate Michigan. I am not going to nominate Maryland, though they are, I agree, off to awesome starts. And the Big Ten East is the new game, where in our live stream on Monday, I saw the commenters started to say, like, take this team, drop them in the Big Ten East. I mean, it is the SEC West game. We are so used to playing that game with the SEC West. Oh, yeah, well, if they're so good, drop them in the SEC West. They'd be the 5th best team. They'd be the 6th best team. You take the 6th or 7th Big Ten East team, and they would be 3rd or 4th in the Big Ten West. They would drop them in the ACC Atlantic. I don't know, 2nd, 3rd, something like that. The Big Ten East is given the SEC West, and the SEC West is very good because I don't think Mississippi State is bad, and I think Mississippi State is the 7th SEC West team. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And again, it is not a bad team. It's just among those teams in the
it's
SEC
just an
West.
incredible division.
Yeah. So Big Ten East and SEC West are both near the top. So I'm going to pair these two together because they played against each other, and they are my final 2 nominations. Oregon and Fresno State. I truthfully do not have as much support for either one of these as Team of the Month as I do with an Arkansas or Penn State, but Fresno State, and this is where we almost do get to lean into the award show aspect of this. Like there are Michigan State nominations on my card that didn't have Michigan State necessarily here as my Team of the Month. There is a Fresno State and an Oregon nomination on my card that didn't necessarily get in here as well. So Fresno State, Jay Kaner gave us that incredible performance against UCLA, and they continue to be a 1-loss team with that only loss coming to Oregon. Oregon hasn't given us consistent highlights, but the close call against Fresno State looks different now, and the Ohio State game was epic. So I think that I would almost lean Fresno State over Oregon, but I would still select Arkansas or Penn State before those two if I had to rank them myself.
Yeah, I think they're excellent honorable mention candidates. I don't know, here's an award I'll just make up. Win of the month goes to Oregon for that road win against Ohio State. I think that was the biggest win for anybody this month.
That might be one of the biggest wins we'll see all season. Like for a Pac-12 team with the Pac-12's inabilities to make the college football playoff over the last 7 years, to notch that non-conference win, what it did to shed Oregon from that tightrope that you have to walk as a Pac-12 team on a regular basis, where just one loss and they're ready to throw you out. Now with that Ohio State win, if they do get caught somewhere in, and we've said it a lot here, the 9-game Pac-12 schedule does not help the Pac-12 make the college football playoff. The Pac-12 is more likely to make the college football playoff if that game is a non-conference game of the particular program's choosing. So for Oregon to be able to enter Pac-12 play with that massive non-conference road win against a conference championship contender, I think that's not only the best win of the month, but probably the best win that we'll have all season, just because of the non-conference and college football playoff ramifications.
For sure. I've got a couple more nominations here. These are more honorable mentions than I think they are serious contenders. The first one is Bowling Green. It's only 2-2, but its win total is 1.5. So it exceeded its win total in the month of September, and it deserves a shout out for that, for all the crap that we've given it on this show. So honorable mention for Bowling Green. And my other two honorable mentions are Napoli, which has won the first 6 matches of the season in Serie A to be in first place, and the Pittsburgh Pirates, who went 11-14 so far this month, to easily push over their win total of 58.5, clinching it last night and winning money for both of us.
Yo ho, a Pirate's life for me. Oh man, if I had known that we were going to be touting the race to 59 here on the Cover 3 pod, yeah, you let Bud and Danny leave. We'll take this thing anywhere we want to go. Yes, much thanks to the Pittsburgh Pirates, Brian Hayes. I will love you for a long time. Brian Reynolds, a pitching staff that really broke my heart with a lot of blown leads, but hey, you got us where we needed to go eventually.
See, that was the best thing about betting the win total on the Pirates, is that, like, elementary wise, it's like, okay, every team should win at least 60 games. I don't care how bad you are. But like, their wins, there weren't like any easy wins. All 59 of them to this part, I feel like they blew a lead at some point and either came back or didn't like 1,000 times. So there was nonstop thrill ride, not just in September, but in April, May, June, July, and August as well.
Love to go to the window. Okay, Penn State or Arkansas? We got to make a decision here.
I'm going to go with Arkansas. I'm going to do that standard thing where it's like they're defying expectations, therefore it's more impressive.
I'm going to go with Arkansas because we got to give them their flowers now. The upcoming schedule is grueling, so let's go ahead and do it. The Cover 3 Team of the Month for September is the Arkansas Razorbacks. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Y'all let me take my shoes off. Sometimes I took my socks off too. Y'all were good to me last time I was here. Love Sam Pittman. All right, let's take it to Player of the Month. I've got 5 names, including one from producer Jordan, who's offered this for the purposes of discussion. I'll go ahead and get it started. Matt Corral has been ridiculous. The offensive numbers that Ole Miss has put up, and they were off for 1 week in September, still are among the best in the entire country. The fact that he's done it he's like, Tulane is not a lesser opponent. Just because Ole Miss put up 700 yards of offense and had 41 first downs, and Matt Corral had 7 touchdowns total, that's an FCS box score and not an FCS opponent. That is an opponent that did a really good job competing against Oklahoma. So I look at it as, no reason to put any real asterisk, even though when you look at the schedule, we don't have, the long, it's not been against the Power 5 opponents that, for example, in Arkansas or a Penn State, 2 of our Team of the Month nominees have taken. But I've got Matt Corral as my first nominee for Player of the Month in September.
It's perfectly acceptable nomination. I'll stick with the quarterbacks. I'm going to a team that isn't, he's not a Heisman favorite. He's not playing for a team that's ranked, but he has been balling out to start the year. And I think it's like his 13th or 14th season there. I'm going Kenny Pickett, who through 4 games with the Pitt Panthers is completing 74.2% of his passes, 10.2 yards per attempt, 15 touchdowns to only 1 interception, averaging 335.5 yards per game. I think that's top 3 or 4 in the country. Like, Pitt can't run, so Pickett's having to sling it. And defenses know at every single play they're probably going to be passing, and it's really not making a difference. He's doing a fantastic job to start the season, and I don't know if it's going to last all year. So I got to get this nomination for Player of the Month in while I can.
Can we say that Kenny Pickett is an iconic Pitt quarterback?
I mean, I'd say it's him and Dan Marino. That's it.
No, it's him and Nathan Peterman. Okay. Kenny Pickett or Nathan Peterman are your iconic Pitt quarterbacks.
No. I think Peterman's third. I think it's Pickett, Marino, Peterman.
Yeah, that's okay. That's that, and then Tino Sinceri fourth.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Tino Sinceri fourth. Love that nomination right there. So I'll go non-quarterback. I mean, we got to give some love here, and I understand it might end up being honorable mention unless he's on your board as well. Kenneth Walker III. I mean, at a very minimum, like definitely transfer of Jake Haener, we'll see. Definitely the transfer of the month, maybe the transfer of the year. The former Wake Forest running back has been absolutely stellar. And you mentioned Michigan State. Like the reason why you watch Michigan State and you think they are the better team, like no matter what the scoreboard is because there is nothing. There's no smoke and mirrors. There's no putt-putt offense. They're running at you and they are running through you and they are running by you. And Kenneth Walker III is the one doing that. So I wanted to make sure that he got mentioned as a finalist here for Cover 3 Podcast Player of the Month.
He was also on my board as well. So, 571 yards, 6 touchdowns, 7.2 yards every time he touches the ball. And that's important too, because while he's been primarily a runner, and that's the way Michigan State's mostly using him, he's also helping out in the passing game too, catching a few passes here and there. So I think he's got 1 receiving touchdown. Staying in the state of Michigan, my next nominee comes from the defensive side of the ball. Guy with 5.5 sacks already this season, Michigan edge rusher Aidan Hutchinson.
On my list as well. I was like, we've got to get some defensive players out here, and no individual defensive player has there's another one actually, but no, only 2 individual defensive players have really popped in the way that Aidan Hutchinson has. And it was the one thing, and this isn't a reason necessarily to give him more credit in this discussion, but it was the one thing that Michigan was missing so badly last year, was getting a good pass rush, getting home when you do have that pass rush. And for Aidan Hutchinson, both in sacks and tackles for loss, he was without a doubt a finalist for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
What about, all right, I mentioned him earlier, Jake Haener, quarterback, Fresno State, a legend forever for picking up his limbs off the turf and putting himself back together like a cartoon. I mean, I don't know which, you choose what superhero or cartoon you want to have, but the way that Jake
Glass,
the way that he gutted it out in the win against UCLA, and even like, we talked about the full body cramp in the week 0 win against UConn, but the UNLV game, sneaky below the radar. They needed Jake Haener to save them in that one too. So it doesn't matter whether it's one of the worst teams in the Mountain West Conference or one of the best teams in the Pac-12. Fresno at some point is going to come to Jake Haener and say, Jake, we need you, bud. And he is going to deliver. So that's why I wanted to nominate him for Player of the Month.
Yeah, his worst game of the season so far from a statistical standpoint was the loss to Oregon. But even in that game, he completed 69.8% of his passes for 298 yards with a touchdown and an interception. That was his worst game. And I'm not nominating him for Player of the Month because I didn't think there was a chance he was going to win. I did nominate him for another award that I made up on my own. It is the Gamer of the Month, and not the video gamer. I just mean like the classic old school playing through the, I'm not injured, I'm just hurt kind of guy who plays through everything and plays well. Because like you said, even against UNLV, sneaky game that we kind of just assumed Fresno was going to run through them, but they were all banged up and tired from having to play that, the Oregon UCLA stretch there. Comes through in the clutch, throws 5 touchdowns. Team needed all 5 of them, won the game. He's just a gamer. He's there every single week. He's never gonna take a day off, never gonna take a game off, never gonna take a playoff, even if his legs are broken.
Jake Haener, much love to you. Okay, who else do you have on your nomination? Then we got to make a decision.
All right, this is my last nomination. It's actually a duo. I am nominating the Oregon safeties. Both for
one of them.
Yeah, Verone McKinley and Bennett Williams have combined for 7 interceptions already this year. Like that's pretty useful from your safeties. And McKinley's off to a good start. Bennett Williams is actually I don't think he's played since 2017 when he was at least at the FBS level, when he was a freshman at Illinois and was named all Big Ten as a freshman, left the team for reasons. Now he's resurfaced at Oregon and he's having a really good year. So I'm happy to see he's back and playing well again.
Hell of a stat. Combined for 7 INTs.
In what, 4 games? Yeah, like I think McKinley has 4 and Williams has 3.
I mean, that's interceptions. I have been known in my 11-year, 12-year run or whatever. I've been known to overrate interceptions, to go to CFB stats and just like pull up the interception count or the passes defended count.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a fine way to be able to fill out like a midseason All-American
team.
Yeah. But sometimes, damn it, it stands up. Like sometimes the players that are out here ball hawking, they are the best in the country. I love that right there from you. Also from producer Jordan, SMU quarterback Tanner Mordecai getting some love as a finalist and a nominee here for Cover 3 Podcast Player of the Month. Obviously, it wasn't a Hail Mary, but it was a toss that is very similar to the game of 500. That's what I called it when I had to write it up for CBS Sports. But because the internet is dumb, the headline still said Hail Mary because that's what people search for when they need to search for SMU's game-winning touchdown against Louisiana Tech. Then he has the win in the Iron Skillet against TCU. Tanner Mordecai getting it done for the Mustangs pony up. Not a nominee for you?
Oh, no, he's definitely a nominee. He's had a great season so far.
Okay, let's make some decisions. I think that was Kenneth Walker the only one that was on both of our lists?
Yeah. Oh, no, Aidan Hutchinson was.
Aidan Hutchinson?
Mm-hmm. But I think if we're going to limit it to players that were on both of our lists, I would say between those two, I would give it to Walker ahead of Hutchinson.
Okay. Who would you argue for from your list that wasn't on mine?
Pickett. Kenny Pickett's had just monster numbers the entire month. He's had better numbers than Corral.
Tiebreak is I know he left the game, but you lost to Western Michigan.
I know, but Western Michigan, they're a good, solid team.
I know that's a red herring. By the way, that's a red herring loss for Pitt.
I mean, they wouldn't be Pitt if they didn't lose to Western Michigan. Like that's what Pitt does.
Right. But then, and as we said, they also put 77 on the board against New Hampshire. But I am going to treat Kenneth Walker's yards against the likes of, Miami and Nebraska. I'm going to give that a little bit more of an edge than what Kenny Pickett did against Western Michigan and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Kenny's the winner.
That's right. The Cover 3 Podcast Player of the Month for September, Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker III. Coming up on the other side, our Coach of the Month for September, our Game of the Month, and more superlatives for September next. Confidence is so important. And one of the real keys to confidence is the look that you're able to put together. Sometimes when you've got the right outfit on, like I do right now, wearing this snazzy looking tux for our awards night here on the Cover 3 podcast, it can bring out something special within you. Any kind of occasion, whether it's work, whether it is social, whether it's something with family, just having the right outfit put together, the different pieces that is going to help you be your best self, be as confident as possible. And Indochino is there to help you personalize your clothing. Indochino offers completely custom fitted suits, shirts, casual wear, and more at surprisingly affordable prices. Every piece is made to your exact measurements, and you can customize every single detail. Choose everything about your suit from the fabric, lapel, monogram, and statement linings, and you can create a suit that fits you and your style perfectly. And the best part is that Indochino suits start at just $399 with all of those customizations included. Indochino is now open at select Nordstrom stores, giving you even more ways to get great fitting personalized clothing. You can find your nearest location at Indochino.com. But right now, why don't you use Indochino.com to get that suit? Because right now you can get $50 off any purchase of $399 or more by using the code COVER3 or at checkout. And you don't even need to get a suit. You could get pants, shirts, casual wear. Just go and put together an entire outfit customized exactly for you. And if the entire purchase is over $399, you can get $50 off that purchase by using the code COVER3 at checkout. That's $50 off a purchase of $399 or more at Indochino.com, promo code COVER3. That's Indochino.com, promo code COVER3. Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, September awards, we turn our attention to the sidelines for the Cover 3 podcast Coach of the Month award for September. Tom Fornelli, you get first nomination.
Oh, I've got a lot of coaches on my board. I feel like I should probably trim it a little bit, but we're going to start with, the guy we named him the team of the month. We might as well nominate him for coach of the month, Sam Pittman.
I know. And the part of Sam Pittman's, the credit is something that is so intangible and can get eye rolls, and you can get laughed out of conversations when you try to bring up something that you can't point to with real evidence other than just watching the games. But this is an Arkansas team that for most of the entire 2 seasons that he has been the head coach seems to play really hard for Sam Pittman. Like, seems to come out well prepared with a lot of effort. There's not a whole lot of quit in this team at any point. And even when the losses started to pile up after they initially exceeded expectations last year, they were tough out. They were really tough out. So that is such a, in addition to the ranked wins, in addition to exceeding expectations for the second year in a row, there is an intangible excitement that I get watching Arkansas because they just seem to play hard.
Yeah, they're a fun team. And everybody looks like they're enjoying themselves all the time. Of course, it's easier to look like you're enjoying yourself when you're winning.
Yes, without a doubt. We mentioned him on Monday's podcast, and I think this offhanded comment sparked the idea for us to really lean into this. Mel Tucker, Michigan State, because Tuck coming. Like, this is a coach who was handed one of the most difficult situations possible. We called Michigan State a chaos. I called Michigan State a chaos team because last year they were 2-5, but those 2 wins were against the Big Ten West Division champion in Northwestern and also against rival Michigan. Whoa. How'd you lose to all these worse teams and then go and win all these other games? I don't get it. Well, now as we finish up September and turn the calendar to October, they are 4-0. They've got a hard-fought win against Nebraska. Wasn't the Spartans' best performance, but again, if you're able to get that win, defend home turf, that is very, very key towards keeping pace in that Big Ten East race. And as you mentioned earlier, the win again at Miami. So I wanted to make sure that Mel Tucker got some mention here for our Cover 3 podcast Coach of the Month in September.
Yeah, he's definitely on my board as well. I will stick again in the Big Ten with a team we've already discussed, so we don't have to spend too much time on it. But James Franklin, also, Penn State team, very much exceeding expectations so far of what we had. Again, coming off a losing season, 2 big wins, currently in the playoff talk and playoff consideration. So he's got to be. Oh, and he's also, the USC job. He's getting thrown around for that too. So his name's all over the place this month.
He's been landing killer. Most of the recruiting stuff I think was in like July and August. He went on a real run, locking up a bunch of 4-star prospects, many of them who made their announcements on CBS Sports HQ, including Donald Driver's son. And that relationship started when James Franklin was the wide receivers coach at Green Bay. Could you imagine trying to recruit Donald Driver's son, a 4-star prospect who's like, could be wide receiver, could be defensive back. I forgot which one he said he wants to play at the next level, but obviously because he's an elite player, can do both, has done both right now. But it's like, all right, so, who else are you talking to? It's like, well, I'm talking to Penn State. Oh, yeah. What do you think of James Franklin? It was like, well, I was a baby when I met him. So, like, James Franklin's a good enough recruiter. All right, James Franklin is on my list as well. And if to take this to the flowery side, I think that when you hear Jahan Dotson talk to the media, and when you hear some of these Penn State players talk to the media, they are surging with confidence right now. And I credit the coaching staff for being able to really refocus this group and get their mentality right for the season, where they're going in and they seem in the process, in the flow, undistracted, and look, could win the Big Ten, could be a college football playoff team. If they continue this path, it feels like their floor is 9-3 or 10-2.
Yeah.
Very impressive work. James Franklin also on my list. How about Brian Kelly?
Yeah. I mean, how can you not nominate him at this point? Notre Dame undefeated. It's picked up a couple big wins. He's passed Newt Rockne for all-time wins at Notre Dame, which, considering how long Notre Dame's been playing football and the name Newt Rockne, it's like passing him on that list is impressive at any point. But even Brian Kelly says himself when he was asked about it last week before he won, he says, if I win the game, it'll just mean I've won more games at Notre Dame than any other coach without winning a national title.
I like
I respect the hell out of him for saying it.
I like where Brian Kelly's at right now. We see this with coaches. When you cross over that that wall, or whatever that line is, where you really you are totally comfortable with your career and where your program is at, and you don't have any gnawing insecurities or concerns, and it really is just a matter of we'll see how we play. I'm very comfortable with our recruiting. I'm very comfortable with our coaching staff, and we might not win every game, but we might not play well, but I'm very confident in how it's like when he snapped back, he's like, yeah, Alabama and Clemson are good. All right. So we're losing to national champions. So what? That happens. I like where he's at right now. And he was also very thankful to get it over with. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Frankly, being like, I'm just glad that we don't have to do this anymore. He's the winningest coach. Congratulations. And the reason that I nominated him here is that Notre Dame has had 4 wildly different games.
Yes.
They are 4-0, and they are getting close to getting bingo in terms of the ways to win. High scoring, low scoring, come back from a deficit, or not come back from a deficit, but blow a game wide open late, hold off the late charge, win in overtime.
Nearly blow it late.
Nearly blow it late, but be able to hold on in overtime. They have run the full gamut of ways to win in college football by the end of September. I don't think he will win, but when you are the head coach of a team that has found ways to win against 4, what I believe are quality opponents not Florida State. You at least deserve some credit as a head coach for being able to navigate those situations.
For sure.
Okay. I'm all tapped out for Coach of the Month nominations.
I've got 4 more nominees. I don't expect any of the 4 to win it, but I wanted to give them, credit for what they've done in the starts they're off to. So I'll start with Dave Clawson at Wake. The Deacs are undefeated. Their schedule to this point hasn't been, incredible, but they are 2-0 in the ACC with wins over Florida State and Virginia. That Virginia win on the road. I want to give some credit to Jeff Hafley and nominate him, similar to Wake. Boston College is also undefeated. Its schedule, again, not super difficult. They've beaten Colgate, UMass Temple, and they beat Missouri at home this week. But I think that part of that, you need to add the context of they lost their starting quarterback, and they're still 4-0. And they're going on the road to Clemson this weekend in what I think will be a more interesting game than I would have assumed when Phil Yurkovich originally went down. So, but still, it's something worth watching. Dave Aranda, Baylor's 4-0.
Yeah.
And now, again, this is another situation. You got to look at the teams they've beaten. It's been Texas State, Texas Southern, Kansas, and Iowa State, which is the best win by far. But still, Baylor's 4-0. There were questions about them coming in. It wasn't exactly a very good team last year. So to see them not only winning, but also putting up points, because like they scored 66 against Southern, 45 against Kansas, and they put up 31 against Iowa State this week. So that's kind of putting some of my expectations for them to the side, because I was always worried about them offensively. And my final nomination, Jeff Traylor, UTSA. I mean, he's always good for a great soundbite, but his team is also winning. He's undefeated. He's picked up a win over a Power 5 team in Illinois. They look like a team that can win Conference USA this year. And Jeff Traylor is going to be I mean, he's quickly really kind of building something at UTSA to where you feel like this offseason, depending on which jobs come open, his name's going to get tossed around quite a bit.
No quit. Another no quit team. As we
Mhm.
saw in the Memphis game as well. Just a remarkable performance. So I am a real I feel dirty for admitting this, but this is a safe space here on the Cover 3 podcast. You know, we only have people listening all over the globe, but since it is the Cover 3 monthly award show, I needed to do all my research, and I actually looked at game control. I'm sorry, Tom. I actually went to look up game control, but the team that had me going to look up the game control rankings was Wake Forest, because I was thinking, you know what? I don't know if anyone has been more in command of every single game that they've played than Wake Forest. And again, you played Virginia and Florida State in conference play. In your non-conference games, you know, you're not going to be having something that stands out with ODU and Norfolk, but they're number 4 in the country in game control. Like, there has just not been many moments that Wake Forest is playing football where it has not looked like Wake Forest is going to win. Number 4 in the country in game control. The execution and the efficiency on offense has been flawless. I mean, really, the 35-14 win against Florida State and the 37-17 win against Virginia were both the same script. Jump on them early when they show any signs of life, get stops and add on to the scoring total, and then just squeeze the game out in a way that made me feel like I was playing NCAA football. You know, you're just trying to get through the game. You just want to get up early, get a couple stops, and then, I don't know, maybe if you're really into the Heisman race at that point in your dynasty, you're just feeding the ball to your best player to let him pad his stats. But just in terms of the competition, again, I understand that the competition is not top notch, but Wake Forest has dominated basically every minute of college football it's played this so far this year and in this month. So I like that nomination of Dave Clawson as well.
And along those lines, you didn't nominate him. I didn't nominate him. Our producer Jordan is wondering why. Kirby Smart. Georgia is a team that has dominated everybody's playing, but the reason I haven't nominated him is the same reason I didn't nominate Nick Saban or any. You know, it's Georgia's playing kind of how I expected it to, and I feel like for me, fair or not, my opinion of Kirby Smart is not changed at all in the first month of the season. It's not going to change unless they beat Alabama. When that happens, then it's like, okay. And again, some coaches, you kind of, you know, set the bar lower and higher for some, fair or not. And that's just kind of where I am with Kirby.
Georgia, number 6 in the country in game control. 2 spot, Alabama, number 5. Wake,
yeah, that
Clemson
game was too close to say it was, you know, control, but they were never in danger there.
All right. So of the ones that we had on both of our ballots, did you have Mel Tucker?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mel Tucker, Sam Pittman, James Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the award going to?
I'm giving it to Mel Tucker. And for me, the tiebreaker is what Bud mentioned on Monday. As far as like EPA coaching decisions, Mel Tucker has made only one quote unquote bad decision based on the numbers all season long. And I guess, you know, you don't want to do it just based on math nerdy stuff, but I do think that with all of these coaches all off to really good starts, that's something that you have to like maybe consider as a tiebreaker.
That's it. The Cover 3 Coach of the Month for September. Congratulations to Michigan State's Mel Tucker. All right, now game of the month for September. NC State Clemson.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't hate it. Not on my list. I thought it went to overtime. It was a close game, and it was an important game.
Double OT.
Yeah, but I don't know. I never felt like while I was watching that game that it was a great game.
I thought that I'm giving extra points to all of the extraneous, luck, voodoo, NC State stuff, because in 2016, NC State had a field goal at the end of regulation to beat the Clemson Tigers. It was inside 40 yards. Kyle Bambard missed it. So when we saw that NC State field goal at the end of regulation miss, there is not a single NC State fan who immediately was not thinking, crap, now we're going to lose to Clemson in overtime, the same way we did in 2016. That Clemson team, which, by the way, Clemson fans, they probably swore off basketball success forever to whatever deity they pray to if they could have that field goal missed, because that 2016 was Deshaun's national championship season. If NC State makes that field goal, Clemson doesn't have that 2016 national championship. For NC State to battle back from that gut punch and to be able to get through into the second overtime, get the score you needed, get the stop you needed, I thought that it carried a lot of interesting ramifications, including within the ACC. Now that Clemson is on the ropes and not in the driver's seat for the ACC's Atlantic Division for the first time since 2014. Incredible atmosphere in Carter Finley Stadium. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that it got some recognition here for Game of the Month. So I can tell it might be an uphill battle here.
Perfectly defendable nominee. I don't hate it. It didn't pop into my head as one of the first games, and even though it was just most recent. I will start with my first game, or my number one seeded team. Alabama 31, Florida 29. Just considering the level of the teams playing in it, the environment at the Swamp, and the fact that Florida really defied the expectations of what we expected. And it was the first time in a long time where you thought Alabama could lose, because they jumped out to that lead. Florida took the punches, picked itself up off the mat, and started throwing haymakers right back at them. They were beating them up. They were in a chance to tie it, and we were very, very close to a season that has featured a lot of surprises already, adding the biggest one of all to this point. So I think that's got to be nominated for Game of the Month.
I'm so broken that it took me the 2-point conversion to really think Alabama would lose. Like, I am so broken down by Nick Saban and by this Alabama Crimson Tide team, because, if you come talk to me in 2014 or 2015, I think that the Crimson Tide are a team you can go and get. I mean, did Dr. Bo Wallace, was he the quarterback, or was that Chad Kelly for the back-to-back Ole Miss wins?
I think it was Swag. It might have been both, but I think it was Swag.
Swag Kelly, back-to-back wins for Ole Miss. You've got the Gus Malzahn Auburn teams getting wins in 2013 and 2017. Since 2018, Alabama in the regular season is not exactly a team that you expect is going to go and get got. Obviously, LSU in 2019, that historic run with Joe Burrow, but the standard, like my resting level of confidence in whether or not Alabama is going to win or not over the last 4 years has dramatically shifted in a way where I don't think it's possible. And only at the very end, I thought that was possible. Fantastic game. Kicked off the SEC on CBS schedule. Not on my board, but yes, very, very good game.
Honestly, you bring it up, like the last few years watching Alabama games, as I watch them, I'm watching it mostly from like draft evaluation.
Like, you're not even wondering if Alabama's going to lose and what the repercussions are going to be on college football.
Correct. I'm watching Alabama's players, and it's like, oh, they're all good. They're all going to be drafted. But I'm also watching like how any prospects on the other team are performing against them.
Because that's the tape that lets us know whether they're good or not.
Yeah, that's kind of what Alabama games have been to me for the last few years. So that Florida game kind of changed the calculus on it a little bit, which is why, like, because I spent so much time talking about it in the reaction pod, that was why I was noticing Florida just beating Alabama up in the trenches, because that's what I was watching. Because I approached that game from the same kind of, all right, let's see what Florida has here talent-wise. And then you're watching, it's like, oh, Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to have to start rethinking what I think of these guys.
I have changed my perspective. And as we look ahead to this weekend against Ole Miss, I don't think I'm going into it just from an NFL talent perspective.
No.
This one, very, very different around the Crimson Tide, at least for the moment. Penn State, Auburn.
Yeah. No, good game. Good game.
Great atmosphere, big plays at the end to be able to set it up. Awful fourth down play call for Auburn, but like Bo Nix played one of the best games you would expect Bo Nix to play in Happy Valley. Sean Clifford was awesome. Probably the best game of his college career, 28 for 32 in the plays that he came up with, even as the Penn State run game struggled. Under the lights, I really enjoyed every bit of that game. And I came out of it feeling more confident in both teams because I thought both teams played pretty well.
Yeah. And like even that fourth down call just kind of adds to the game's like candidacy. It's like, it's nice. It like having those kind of moments that you could just be like, are you freaking kidding me? That sticks in your mind and makes the game stand out. No, I think that's a great nominee. My next one, Fresno 40, UCLA 37.
Also on my board.
I mean, it's also, I think, like the whole Jake Haener, is he going to live through this game aspect of it? And like the back and forth nature, both him and DTR slinging it, Haener leading him to the victory at the end, but also like the community aspect of it being like the Pac-12 after dark game where everybody on college football Twitter is watching along and reacting at the same exact time. I always think that adds a little bit of aspect to the atmosphere that was still good in the Rose Bowl, but not quite what it was in these other games we've discussed so far.
People have compared Twitter to lots of things. Ultimately, it's always very like selfish and navel gazing because your experience of Twitter is just whatever your feed is and you get to choose your feed. But there is something about maybe 3 p.m. on a college football Saturday. It feels like everyone's yelling at once. In my experience, that makes me less inclined to want to talk. Okay. So I'll just sort of keep my thoughts on my notepad, go ahead and prepare, do my day-long preparation for the reaction pod and for end of day writing for CBS Sports HQ hits. But when we're done with that instant reaction and we're settling into Pac-12 after dark,
everybody's watching the same game.
Everything's kind of like calmed down.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1:30 at the sports bar. And the only people who are left are all yelling at each other from their different tables across the whole place. And it's kind of a magical moment on college football Twitter. Mine again on my board as well. And my last game of the month nominee was Oregon's win at Ohio State. We discussed in the best win sort of nomination, everything in there. And it was also just to watch Ohio State climb back showed us a lot about CJ Stroud, showed us a lot about Ohio State's defense and the issues that were there. How Joe Moorhead has created a real shout out Charlie Weiss schematic advantage, for the Ducks. I mean, he's just a good game planner, play caller. He threw in some interesting wrinkles there, some interesting formations that gave Ohio State some fits. So, Oregon's win over Ohio State, also a nominee for me.
All right, my final nominee, Notre Dame 41, Florida State 38. It was an exciting game in that Florida State had the remarkable comeback to force overtime. And then also you add the layer of Mackenzie Milton returning for the first time in years after that, injury while at UCF. So you get that aspect to it. And then him playing well to help Florida State come back. And then finally, also kind of like what we were just talking about, that Fresno UCLA game, this was on the Sunday night of opening weekends. This was the only game going on. So everybody who was watching college football was watching that game, and everybody was watching it and experiencing it together. And I think that one really stood out to me as well.
Did the total go bust in overtime?
No, if it's 79 points, already. It was there before. Yeah.
Good call. All right. So time to make a decision. Is Fresno UCLA the only one that showed up on
both of our cards?
Both of our cards.
Yeah.
All right. And the cover 3 game of the month for the month of September, Fresno State's win against UCLA. All right. freestyle. Like, what are some of the other superlatives you want to give out before we wrap things up here?
I have two. The first one is for message board poster of the month.
Is it the Ohio State one? Who's
No.
in legal trouble now?
No. It's a group of people. It is any poster through the first month of the season who has gone on their board and posted some version of, I can't stand the guy, but damn it, we need to hire Art Briles. That is my message board poster of the month.
Who's out? I guess it's happening in a lot of places.
Oh, it happens everywhere. It's happening. I've seen him at Miami. I've seen him at Texas Tech. I've seen him anywhere where anybody is upset with their coach. It's like, damn it. I know he's got problems. And I personally, I can't, as the father of two girls, I can't stand the idea, but damn it, we need to win football games. We need to get Art Briles in here.
Yeah, that's congratulations, message board posters of the month that are calling for the suspension of all indications that we are concerned about anything in this football program besides these W's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any others?
Yeah, I've got another one. It is the worst decision of the month. And congratulations to you, Chip, because it goes to you for ranking Clemson number 14 on your poll this week.
They ain't 70.
They ain't 14th.
Listen, that is a 9-3 team if I've ever seen one.
They are. Yeah. Well, when they're 9-3, they could be 14th. They're currently 2-2.
Yeah. I would not. Whatever. We're not gonna relitigate. You know what? This gets relitigated over the next month or so.
Oh, when they lose to Boston College this week, where will you have them ranked?
No, they are going to win narrowly. They're going to win by about 3 points.
You're going to bump them up 5 spots.
Only because Dennis Grossel is not ready for this Clemson defense. But what Jeff Hafley did to DJ last year in the first half certainly has me considering that the Wizard, who has somehow gotten this Boston College team, refigured its offense and gotten it to 4-0, I do think he might have a few more tricks up his sleeve. To review our Cover 3 podcast awards for the month of September. Team of the month for September, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Is there the player of the month for the month of September? Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker III. The coach of the month for the month of September, Michigan State coach Mel Tucker. And the Cover 3 podcast game of the month for the month of September, Fresno State's win over UCLA. Congratulations, Sparty, taking home 2 of the 4 major awards here at the Cover 3 Podcast Awards. Our thanks to Danny Cannell and Bud Elliott. We are sorry that your ballots did not come in time. Sorry they weren't counted. You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fernelli. You can follow me on Twitter at Chip_Patterson. Locks live Thursday, 11 a.m., youtube.com/Cover3. Subscribers of the Cover 3 Podcast, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You will be getting that lock show around the normal time, about 12:30, 1 o'clock Eastern time. So be sure to refresh the feed so that you can get it. Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you.